three. 1, 2, 3. Let's go.
All right, guys. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe and comment below. Let us know how you've been affected by all of this. But we've got some crazy stuff to get into. That's why I'm wearing my Savannah Bananas hat tonight, because what happened today was absolutely bananas. We're still sorting through the information. But one thing is clear, distribution is nowhere in sight. So let's march it back to what happened over the last couple of days. The SEC has been on a hot streak, suing just about everybody they can, including CoinBase for offering unregistered exchange, clearinghouse, and brokerage. They also mentioned that they offer and sell investment contracts. That is far and away from what the SEC is after Binance for. And so I'm going to link that back to Voyager, but give me just a second to go through some of these charges. There are 13 charges that make Binance sound very FTX-ish at this point. Right? Yeah, W, I hear you. I don't know if I should put that one up there, but Binance, of course, the same charges as Coinbase, but failure to restrict U.S. customers from Binance.com, enrich themselves by billions while placing investor assets at significant risk. So this sounds like they've been counter trading or trading against their investors or doing something of the like. They attempted to evade laws by announcing sham controls they disregarded behind the scenes. So pretending to have controls over your money and then not really following those laws. The biggest one, and the one that got my attention, is commingling of customer funds. And the funds were diverted to a trading entity run by CZ himself called Sigma Chain. They also say that they engaged in an extensive web of deception, apparently avoiding the law up until this point. The CFTC and the IRS also have open investigations on Binance and CZ. The DOJ is also on deck with their own investigation and possibly charges. CZ and Binance were also hit with an April civil suit for $1 billion for touting unregistered securities and paying celebrities to do the same. Now, those are all things that you probably have heard over the last couple of days, but these are things that link back to Voyager in this way. We had a Voyager UCC. They had the opportunity to complete due diligence on these companies. And now 2 times in a row, they served us a big fat nothing. They served us frauds. We got FTX in the first place, and lucky for us, they blew up before we became part of their problem. And now Binance seems like they didn't do any due diligence with them either, and they were almost doing exactly the same things. I mean, this Sigma Chain entity sounds a lot like Alameda Research to me. And so I think in the end, because he's not on American soil, you might not see him get arrested, but that is a big problem and a serious question that I'd like to hear the UCC or any of the lawyers or the plan administrator, somebody answer in court. Why were we subject to 2 different companies that ended up being fraudulent in the end? And we don't know. Binance may not be a fraud in the end, but it sure looks like they're doing a lot of FTX type stuff, right? If you look at the charges that have been brought against them, and it's a lot more than Coinbase, they look a lot like FTX. They look a lot like what Bankman-Fried was doing, or somebody called him Scam Bankman-Fraud today on Twitter. I thought that was cute. But they're doing a lot of those same things. He's just not in jail. Yeah, 3 fraudulent companies if you include Voyager. That's correct, W. And that one I can put up. So you got 3 fraudulent companies if you include Voyager. Yeah, you've got Voyager, you've got FTX, you know, you've got Binance, and then if you back that up, you've also got Alameda, and you've got whatever this, you know, Sigma chain, this trading entity that he was running behind the scenes. And again, these are all allegations. He has posted his usual, you know, his shorthand for FUD, which is the number 4, but things are not looking good for Binance. That leads us to what happened today in court. Okay, so a lot of things happened today in court. It was hard to keep up with. We've been bouncing from spaces today. I spoke with AZ Crypto. He is currently in the air, headed back from Cleveland. But the plan administrator walked into court today and decided that they wanted to change the plan in the 11th hour. They wanted to distribute and liquidate supported coins, which included Bitcoin, Ethereum, and USDC, but none of the unsupported coins. Now, the judge says you can't use SEC lawsuit after the fact, and the lawyers for the plan administrator was changing this plan prior to the SEC's lawsuit being filed, right? So he came into court today claiming that that was his reasoning for changing the plan, when indeed he was actually changing that plan before those lawsuits were filed. There was also a rumor that if Gina DeResta didn't file her objection, that we would not have been able to stop what happened with the change in plans today. So, you know, if that is true, then thank you to Gina. But she was in court today, and she was shooting, they were shooting holes in the plan administrator's case, and still the can got kicked down the road. And we'll look at some of the other things that happened. But the plan, as the administrator wants to use it now, is they would distribute or liquidate and distribute supported coins. They would require Voyager customers to get on the app and transfer out that money as soon as possible. Then they could go about seeking exemptions for up to 2 years. And if there's money left after that, they'll distribute on those unsupported tokens. And even then, we've been talking to people, and they think that they could even push this out further, maybe even more years. So the hope is that the judge here in a week is going to force this to be administered the way it was written. The judge also told them that they can no longer prolong these proceedings on the grounds of trying to protect themselves or Steve or any of the third parties. So their argument moving forward is going to relate to these tokens that the SEC is now claiming are securities. And that was the basis for the argument all day long. Remember, the SEC now is claiming, and some people are saying 13 coins. It's as many as 15 coins if you read through the lawsuits. You've got Solana, Polygon, Cardano, Cosmos, Sandbox, Decentraland, Algorand, Internet Computer, Near Protocol, Nexo, Flow, and Dashcoin. So you've got all of these, and we were thinking last night, well, what's the problem with these? Why are they considering them securities? Is it decentralization? No, every single one of those projects has a DAO. Every single one of those projects has a DAO, and Algorand actually boasts what they call the world's largest DAO. So it has nothing to do with decentralization. The SEC is just after crypto right now, it seems like. Another interesting point from court today, the SEC had 2 lawyers sitting in on the hearing who had no comments throughout the proceedings. Now, no one asked them any questions, right? No one looked to them, hey, can we get some clarity on this? And so there was no real reason for them to step up and say anything. But they didn't object to anything. So why were they there in a bankruptcy case? And some people are starting to think that they may be planning to also charge Voyager the same way that they charged Binance and CoinBase. And again, that is going to soak up customer funds trying to defend something like that. So that doesn't necessarily spell out good things for us. So let's answer some of the questions that are in the chat. I'm getting a little bit behind there. So we got this one from B Miles 24. Do we know what portion of the 35% the unsupported coins make up? We're not exactly sure. So there are plenty of people being mathematicians out there right now, and I've heard a lot of different things on the spaces. So I'm not gonna to really try and pin down a percentage, but it's looking more and more like 35% is unrealistic as we move forward. We have now kicked the can another week down the road. The judge has given them a week to update him and come back with another plan or decide how they're going to work the original plan that was approved. But we're hearing that there's even a chance that there may be another vote if the percentage does indeed change by quite a large margin. So if you see it drop down into, say, the high 20s, you may see that trigger another vote to see whether or not we're going to approve whatever plan follows that, or approve the plan moving forward with that small of a percentage. So that is something that's up in the air right now. Let's see. Them giving us our tokens has nothing to do with the lawsuit against exchanges or the SEC lawsuits. You're right. Their argument doesn't hold water, and that's the problem. Their argument is that they're worried that a law may be written sometime down the road that these are securities and they shouldn't have liquidated them in order to pay out the customers. And that's just, I mean, one, they've already done that, right? So they rebalanced, and they already rebalanced, or they already committed massive conversions of tokens in the hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So why are they worried about doing that again if they didn't worry about that in the first place? So you're right. This has nothing to do with any of that. This person is just prolonging the process. This person is supposed to be our plan administrator, is supposed to be on our team, right? That doesn't seem to be the case. That's why I've listed his phone number and his email address down in the description. We need to hit this person with a lot of emails, maybe even some phone calls, to let him know what we think of the job he's doing in court for us, because this isn't holding water for us. This isn't helping creditors at all. We're just enriching lawyers at this point. So the SEC is trying to collect revenue in fines. Yeah, Jeremy. Yeah. The SEC will. It seems they want to gain control of crypto somehow, and so they want to call it a security. But that it seems like there's going to be a little bit of a contest here in the government to see who is actually in charge of that. So we'll see in the end who is. But it seems like the SEC is the one that's taking charge right now. See, the SEC is really trying to protect us. What a joke. Exactly, Dubsky. The SEC is not trying to protect us. It seems a lot like the SEC is trying to teach us a lesson at this point, doesn't it? It seems like they are sticking it to us a little bit and just saying, they don't really care about us. It's almost like I told you so moment. Like, we told you not to get involved in crypto, and now we're going to punish you for it. That's almost how the SEC is handling this. Because again, if we go down the road and we have more litigation against Voyager and all of these people that are with Voyager, that's going to suck away customer funds. So yeah, it's going to be problematic, and the SEC isn't. At least they don't have our customer funds or creditor funds in mind when they're doing these things. Yes, we are getting pennies on the dollar at this point. What we could expect in the short term, at least how the plan was written, was somewhere around 35%. So that was already pennies, but now it's looking like that's going to shrink even more as they kick this can down the road. Let's see. ADA is supported, but it's under scrutiny. So what's their take on that? Yeah, they're just going to keep using what the SEC says as ammunition. And so the more tokens they add to this that they're actually holding, the more of a problem it's going to cause for us, because that's what they signaled to us. Remember earlier in this week, last week, we spoke to Grayson Williams, which is who's a lawyer at the firm at Taft Law, where Paul Hage works. And he basically spoke AZ crypto in a circle for a while, and didn't give any specifics, didn't give us any comfort moving forward. And we came to the conclusion at that point that they knew something was up, and they weren't going to pin down any. They weren't going to pin anything specific down because they knew they were changing it. Is this how almost bankruptcies go? This all seems, yeah, the judge commented today in court that there are bankruptcy laws that outline this stuff, and they seem to be flouting these laws left and right. What they're doing, changing the plan in the 11th hour, seems to be illegal in any other bankruptcy, but they've gone ahead and done it here, and now they've gotten a week extension because of it. So it's not. It doesn't seem like they keep stepping over these deadlines and nothing happens to them. So it seems like they're just going to keep stepping over the line, they're just going to be habitual line steppers until somebody stops them. And I have a feeling that the strength of the customers, those of us watching this video, friends, family, those of us that know people who are into Voyager, we have to hand out these numbers. And I even put Judge Michael Wiles' number, his clerk's number, the number to his chambers, all of that stuff in there, so that you can contact as many people as you please to let them know, not only your situation, but how unlawful and how morally bankrupt this whole process has gone, and what kind of people we're actually dealing with here, because we seem to be dealing with pirates and they seem to be getting away with stealing everything from us. Yeah, I get that feeling every time I think about this, but I would discourage you from taking physical action from anybody. But I understand. I definitely understand that sentiment. So they're just going to hold shitcoins until the SEC zeroes in. Yeah, that's what he wanted to do with the plan, right? And so when he wanted to change it, he wanted to liquidate the supported coins and then just hang on to the other coins in perpetuity, right? And so that would theoretically lower the percentage that comes to us in the beginning, and then sort of lock the rest of it up in limbo forever. And that's not even including the the Alameda FTX money that's locked up away, or the 100 million set aside for the wind down and the lawyers. So there's a lot there's a lot going on there. But yeah, he just wants to lock that up forever and soak up those funds as much as they can. It seems to be just a team of lawyers who are, it's almost looks like collusion, like they're trying to get as much as they can out of this lemon together. All right, we won't even have an onboard offboard exchange at this point, regardless of what percent of our holding we receive. If the SEC continues its rampage, tiny bags we can't cash out. Possibly. What I would imagine is that they would create some sort of avenue once this is all said and done for us to cash out, if this is ever all said and done. But I mean, depending on who you believe and who I talked to and listened to today, holding those unsupported coins could last anywhere from 2 to 5 years in worst case scenarios. So not a good look. Yeah, these people seem to have no accountability, no morals, no ethics. That's another thing. When you contact Paul Hage's law firm, you can ask to speak to somebody else. You don't have to say, I want to speak to Paul Hage. You can say to somebody else, hey, maybe one of the partners you might get a hold of, doubtful, but leave a message for somebody and say, hey, we would like to have somebody work on this that isn't morally and ethically bankrupt, someone who isn't trying to squeeze all of our dollars out of this. That could be an approach that we take here. But whatever happens, we all need to get involved now, because we are collectively being screwed by this whole process. The judge actually seemed to be siding with the creditors. Gina DeRessa, like I said, was shooting holes in their argument. But the problem is, there is a rumor that had she not objected, this may have gone through because of the lack of objections. So thank goodness for her. But the judge was not impressed with the plan administrator's argument. As far as I could tell, the judge gave them a week to go back to the drawing board and basically administer the plan as it was drawn up. So we'll see whether that happens or not. But it was just, yeah, all the numbers are in the description. So if you look below in the description, you can find it down there. I can't peek at it right now because I'm on the streaming on the streaming dashboard. So there's a bunch of things going on. Yeah, asking a lawyer to do a good thing is asking a lot, right? There's probably some good lawyers out there, but then they're not working on our behalf in this bankruptcy process. All right, so once again, the plan administrator came into court today and said, we'd like to change the plan. The basis for the change included only supported tokens. So the idea was that the SEC, the IRS, the DOJ, the CFTC, everybody else, but the SEC claiming that these things are securities is what's jamming them up, even though the plan administrator and the judge acknowledged that they were making these changes prior to the SEC's lawsuits. The changes include only liquidating supported coins and then hanging on to those unsupported coins until such a time as they can tell that they're not securities. And the last thing that I wanted to touch on that I hadn't touched on, and that's what makes this whole thing feel really gross, is that basically the plan administrator gave an ultimatum at the end and said, if you approve what are the changes in our plan, we'll convert the BTC, ETH, USDC today to cash and return to the customers. So basically giving an incentivized reason for doing that, right? But they also threatened the judge and says, if you deny, we may basically never distribute. So that was something that actually happened in court today. The plan administrator basically looking for protections and to run the plan in a way that it wasn't approved. Let's see. We got another comment. The judge has to act on official documents that are filed. No one has objected to the administrator yet, but should be possible to replace him. That's another thing that came up today, is that a lot of people are asking, can we replace the plan administrator? Can we replace these folks? And that right now is still up in the air. But yeah, we're getting a lot of reaction. Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's the other thing. And my question is, why is a plan administrator that is refusing to administrate the plan the way it was approved, why is this person not being held in contempt? And I have a feeling that might be coming, but I would really love to see some action from the judge at this point. Wouldn't you love to see the judge hold this person in contempt at this point? Because I mean, to walk into a courtroom and basically threaten the judge that you'll never distribute if they don't approve the plan the way that it stands or the way that you've changed it, it just seems it seems unlawful. It seems like I said, morally bankrupt. It seems these people definitely don't have our best interests in mind, right? These people aren't looking out for us. So at the very least, get us a new plan administrator. Get us somebody who's going to distribute the way that it was meant to be distributed. Someone who's not going to create these fake problems for us to say, to move the goalposts based on this, that, or the other thing, or to try and protect himself from future lawsuits or future being arrested in the future for some laws that don't exist already in the books, right? And for something you've already done. Our plan administrators or the UCC and Voyager have already gotten together and done a rebalancing. They've already traded in tokens that are considered securities. So if they're worried about something that's happened in the past, they've already done it. So what's stopping them from doing it again? Nothing. There's no law on the books that's stopping them from doing this. What they're saying is that they're worried about future laws. They're worried about somebody coming after them in the future based on laws that don't exist now, based on clarity that doesn't exist from the SEC now. And so that's who we're really dealing with. We have no one on our team right now. We had Gina DeResta in there that was on our team. That's the person who was in there that was on our team, right? We had people that were shooting holes in this argument, but that's it. The SEC wasn't on our team. They didn't speak up today. They had 2 lawyers that were sitting in on it. Who's on our team? We have to be on our team. We've got to stick up for ourselves. We've got to go out and call Paul Hage. We've got to call Judge Michael Wiles. We've got to make our voices heard now. We've got to let people know. And, you know, in the last video, we showed you there somebody wrote a letter to the judge, and that was filed in as an objection. You know, if we can't afford lawyers because our funds are locked up in Voyager, the least we could do is fire away a letter, you know, explaining our situations, explaining the hardships, and maybe even outlining what we know about the monsters who have put us through this. You know, Stephen Ehrlich is still collecting a check somewhere between $30,000 and $40,000 a month. And that's due to end in October, but there are grumblings that they may say that they need to retain him beyond that. So there's a chance that we could keep paying that monster who led us down this rabbit hole in the first place. So there's a lot of problems. Then the date for next week, I thought it was the 15th. AZ thought it was the 14th. So we'll check in on that. But they have about a week to respond to the judge to give him an update. Let's see. At the start of some good bankruptcy attorneys said we would be lucky to get 15% back. I didn't see how it could happen, but a year after all this makes sense. Yeah. Yeah. And unfortunately, the more that this kind of stuff happens, the lower our distribution gets, right? The more we have to go to court, the more, you know, the more lawyers are billing. I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Hage billed us for the hour-long phone call that AZ Crypto had with one of his associates the other day. That's the kind of people that we're dealing with. That if a creditor calls and has questions, they're going to bill so that they get more money out of us, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if that kind of stuff's happening, because if you looked at the fee examiner's report, they were already overbilling, you know, messing up their hours, redundant timekeeping. These guys are awful. What did the judge tell them they had to do? The judge told them basically, it seemed like the judge was telling them that they had to administer the plan the way it was approved. But we'll see, right? We've gotten caught up with this idea in the last month or so where we're saying, all right, you're going to get your money here. You're going to get the distribution's going to happen here. What have we learned from that? Skepticism is the best way to go with this. You know, there's no deadline at this point. You know, there isn't even the assurance that next week the judge will force them into administrating the plan. So we're going to stop saying we're going to get our money soon. And we won't say that until people actually start collecting those checks, or we see them getting that money into their accounts. Yeah, they probably consult Steve on how to refine their legal scams. That's for sure. All right, guys. Well, that's about all that I have for you tonight. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for everybody that commented. Remember, please like and subscribe. Yeah. My dad used to say this. I stopped wishing in one hand and crapping in the other. Now I have crap on both hands. Yeah. My dad used to say, hold out both hands. You can wish in one hand and crap in the other and see which one fills up the fastest. Yeah. We definitely filled up the crap hand. All right. Well, thank you again, everybody. That's right. Steve for Prison 2024. Thank you for tuning in tonight. I hope everybody has a better night, right, Clout Casino? I want you guys to write into the judge, write into Paul Hage, exercise your frustrations that way. Find an outlet that's healthy like that. You know, don't let this sink you down into something that's ugly. And we're going to bring you more content moving forward, and we're going to bring you more ways that you can hustle, that you can, you know, make your money back outside of this Voyager debacle. And we'll keep it here, and we'll keep you updated on any other news that Voyager comes out with. For AZ Crypto, this is MrFOMO, and we will see you next time, if I can get the graphics to work, on Teaching Crypto.